everyone, welcome back to the Nello Reads channel. Our first malicious compliance story of the day comes from Public Pressure 4516. At-will employment cuts both ways, sister. A few years ago, my husband was laid off at the start of summer. I had a part-time gig as a teacher, but it didn't come with benefits. I had to take a job, any job, to provide health insurance while hubby looked for a new gig. I got a job as a teller at a bank. I tried, but was new to keeping a till, so a few times a week my register wouldn't balance. Never very much money, under a few dollars, but the whole staff had to stay late until we straightened it out. I felt horrible for the rest of the staff. As if that shame wasn't bad enough, my supervisor, Mel, would remind me that I worked at will, and they could fire me at any time. Our family's health insurance going up in smoke was terrifying to me. Sometimes it was hard to hold back tears. I got better as the summer went on, but every few weeks, if I made a mistake, Mel would smile as she warned me that you can be fired for no cause and you'd have to leave immediately. It was so fantastically over the top. At one point, I pointed out that constant threats didn't create a healthy environment. Her smile only broadened. It goes both ways. You can quit at any time, you know. When the school year started in the fall, I needed to take my daughter to tour her new school for her first day. I asked to take my lunch in the afternoon so I could help my daughter. Though they approved it, when it came time for my lunch, they insisted I work through my lunch because they were being slammed. By then, my husband had found a job with insurance, and even better, I'd been offered more hours teaching, though still not full-time. Enough was enough. The next day, I practically floated into the bank. I waited until 10 a.m., then told Mel I needed to talk with her. She replied that she was very busy, and it would have to wait until after we closed. "Oh, I won't be here then," I said. She looked like I'd smacked her with a brick. I smiled. "Remember that I needed to bring my daughter to her new school yesterday? You wouldn't let me do that, so I'm doing it this afternoon." She didn't get it at all. "You can't just take an hour off when you—" I had to interrupt. "I'm not taking an hour off. I'm leaving. For good. At noon. You kept reminding me that I work at will. Thanks for those reminders. I'm leaving for good in 2 hours." While Mel fumed, I waited on customers. I practically sang my greetings to them and was so effing cheerful. Customers kept asking me why I was so happy. I was delighted to tell them because I'm leaving forever at noon. After a half hour of that, Mel thought I should just go right away. And I did. I skipped right out the door, then gave Mel a very elaborate curtsy at the door. I gotta agree with OP. Constant threats are no way to run a workplace. I have almost no doubts that Mel probably has trouble keeping employees on for long when they're constantly reminded that they could be fired for literally anything at any time. Our next story comes from Hogan Lee. 8-year-old did his chores exactly as requested. This is the story of my nephew at the age of 8, a malicious compliance prodigy. My sister has 3 kids. Great kids, but often tricky. Particularly my nephew. He is a lovable, smart arse. They each were given certain chores growing up, and at age 8, nephew was given the task of emptying the cutlery from the dishwasher in the evening. One day, my sister sent me a photo of the cutlery basket that has a vegetable peeler, whisk, and some other associated items left in it. Apparently, nephew wandered off, and the conversation went as follows. "Nephew, you need to finish emptying the dishwasher." "It's done." "We said you have to empty the basket." "No, you said I had to put away the cutlery." "I put away all the cutlery." Sister told me she realized she had in fact told him to put away the cutlery, and was inwardly laughing, well, outwardly furious. Nephew insisted that peelers and other items were not cutlery, and so did not fall within his chore requirements. From then on, his chore was to empty the cutlery basket, which he fully complied with. Nephew is now an awesome, hilarious teen who I strongly believe would do well as a lawyer. Kids can be pretty smart at times. Like, they do a lot of dumb things like this, but in really smart ways. So thanks for the laugh, OP. Our next story comes from Up Above It All. I was forced to eat at fancy restaurants for a month. Many years ago, I got put on a work assignment that required me to travel to New York City and stay every Monday to Friday. I was assisting a company manager with a project, and my hotel was near his regular office in the theater district. If you are not familiar, the theater district is heavily built for tourists. Restaurants are generally kind of fancy and expensive. There were really not any quick and cheap options for dining in that area. The company had a generous meal policy of up to $30 to $40 per meal for travel expenses. I did use that for a bit, but the food got to feeling too indulgent and kind of ridiculous, given it was an extended assignment. I was also working really long hours, and did not want to go sit in restaurants. I wanted to go watch TV and sleep in my room. So after the first week or so, I instead went to a grocery store on Monday night. I bought some basics for cereal, sandwiches, and snacks, and some frozen meals I could microwave for lunch in my office. It cost about $60. I then took a few cans of soda from my hotel fridge to make room for my weekly food purchase, and returned them before checking out at the end of the week. And that was it for food costs, with an occasional meal out here or there. I did the same for the next 4 weeks, submitting my expense report at the end of the month. You know where this is going. A lady from accounting called and refused to reimburse my expenses because $60 is more than $40, the max allowance for a meal purchase. I explained that it had covered 5 days of food, but was told it didn't matter. I then spent the next month trying all the food in the neighborhood. There really were not any cheap options. I went out to eat a few mornings, lunch whenever I found time, and dinner absolutely every day. I could have bought a few installments of groceries, but the once-a-week shopping convenience was part of why I had wanted them. It had also seemed wasteful for me to go out for an expensive meal every night for long-term travel, but now I'd been told that was preferred by accounting to my grocery bills. The next month, I got a call from my New York City manager asking how I'd run through more budget every week of the month than the entire month before combined. I explained the grocery situation, and he thanked me and hung up. About 10 minutes later, that same lady from accounting called me to tell me that they'd pay my still not reimbursed grocery bill and any others going forward, as long as the daily amount averaged for the week was under the aggregate meal allowance. I happily returned to a more reasonable diet. Well, I'm glad it all worked out in the end. OP got to do some fine dining and get his way. It sounds like an awesome combination that I'm honestly a little jealous of. Our next story of the day is from another Will, entitled Karen Gets Cancelled. I'm a customer service manager for a very large entertainment/broadband company. Part of my job is listening to calls raised to me by my agents in relation to things like complaints. One of my agents had a customer on the line going mental about her daughter's phone and broadband services being restricted for not paying. Customer claims the last person she spoke to said her bill would be cleared and she didn't have to pay. So I listened to that call, and the customer is awful from the get-go, making fun of the advisor's name, the name being Merlin. She was making jokes about her being a wizard and how stupid her name was mainly, and shouting at her for over an hour about how we've committed fraud because we won't read her daughter's bank details out on the call to her. She then starts going mad when the advisor tells her we couldn't take payment because 3 different credit cards were declined on the account in 3 different months. Abuse goes on for an hour and 45 minutes, and I feel so bad for the advisor at this point. The customer starts going mental that her daughter never has credit cards, again, that we've committed fraud, and that she's coming to the agent's call center to find her. When the agent asks how we could possibly have committed fraud, the customer puts her foot in it, goes into a rage, and then tells her she let her daughter, who's only 17, go into the store and take the broadband contract with us, and the agent knew she had to be over 18, how it was our fault and blah blah for not doing our checks and so on. Her daughter came on the line screaming, just as bad as her too. Our customers need to be 18 plus to have contracts with us. We run basic debt checks to see if they have defaulted accounts with us, but nothing more. After raising the account off to the fraud team, I had the pleasure of calling them back to tell them their account was canceled effective immediately. Of course, she started screaming at me until I told her I wasn't here to be screamed at. It clearly wasn't up for discussion, and that I'd be hanging up. If she'd been nice and not acted like she was on a pedestal and untouchable, then the services wouldn't have been canceled. Edit. To save everyone slating me about how crap my company and management style is, this call I was listening to wasn't my agent. It was 3 days before my agent's. My company has strict policies around abuse, in which you warn the customer you'll hang up for abuse if they show signs of it and de-escalation doesn't work. I'm happy to speak to abusive customers, so my people don't have to. For whatever reason, this poor agent dealt with the call without hanging up. She was just that good at her job, she mustn't have really cared. I can understand that having to deal with support over the phone can be frustrating, but these agents aren't punching bags. A little patience goes a long way, and I'm sure the agents appreciate it on what seems like the rare occasion they get it. I doubt the carrot in this story will ever learn that, but some people just suck. The next story comes from Mr. Duck 0409. Make the nursing home pay indefinitely. Short explanation first. I have full power of attorney for my mother-in-law. This is mostly because 2 of her children are deceased and the 2 remaining daughters are high-level managers/executives and are out of town on business a lot. I work at home, and before my mother-in-law went to the nursing home, she lived with us, and I assisted and am familiar with her financial affairs. So making me power of attorney made sense. Yes, her daughters are set up appropriately as well. 2 years ago, a medical issue caused my mother-in-law to become bedridden and could no longer walk or take care of her own personal things. We had to get her into a home. It took 5 nursing homes and 6 moves across 2 years to get her into a place that is as close to perfect as we could get. She's a Medicaid patient, which means she can't have over $2,500 of personal funds, and the nursing home takes all of her Social Security and pension income except for $60 a month. She had some funds sitting aside. However, the Medicaid approval didn't come until the 4th nursing home. Over the 2 years, she had some things paid by Medicare and private funds, and now she's spent down to under her required amount of funds she can keep. The first nursing home we had her in probably had the most draconian policies, didn't treat her well, and was about to kick her out back then unless we privately paid or got her Medicaid approval completed. We then went on a chain of going through other nursing homes that allowed her in, but then the Medicaid kicked in. The first nursing home also claimed on their advertising they take Medicaid pending. The phrase means you're in the process of being approved and that hopefully they can retro bill your stay. But they didn't. There were no available beds and weren't really helpful except to pester us with, "When are you going to pay?" or "When are you going to leave?" We had several other care issues with them as well. We were treated better by the next few nursing homes, but not perfect, and now have her in a safe place. About 8 months ago, about a year and a half since she had been at the first nursing home, we get a bill for several $100s. I argued with the nursing home. Why the F didn't you bill us back then, when she had available funds to pay this? She cannot pay now as she's under a limited income. The amount owed isn't much. I was just mad at them for the bad treatment and the crappy attitude they treated my mother-in-law with during her time there. To top it off, sent us a bill well after she had the ability to pay. They didn't care and said they had no control over their billing. Fine, but why over a year late? Malicious Compliance Act 1. I told them we'd pay, based on the amount she could get out of her $60 a month that Medicaid lets her keep. So, $5 per month. They weren't happy, but I sent a $5 payment monthly to the parent company of the nursing home. This only lasted about a few months, but they were also slow to collect the $5 in their billing system. So actually, I paid an extra $5 once to keep ahead. Then they started getting antsy with the small amount they were getting and started including more dire wording in the bills. Got more threatening phone calls. Whether any of the threats were real or not, the letters weren't fun. As I said, the amount wasn't much. I went ahead and used my own money, paid off the bill, just to keep the nursing home from escalating. But as I said, I had sent an extra single $5 just to keep ahead. Malicious Compliance Act 2. The nursing home is paid off. However, they have a negative balance, owing us $5. The nursing home's billing system is now issuing a monthly bill showing the negative $5 and also included an envelope for payment. I figure this is costing the nursing home about 75 cents a month, printing a bill using 2 envelopes and mailing it to us. As far as I know, it appears their system will keep spending 75 cents a month forever. So, in a year, they will have spent $8 to send us a negative balance bill, and that will just keep building and building. Haven't gotten any other notification that they would return it. I'm not going to waste my time contacting them. They'll sit and eat it. Edit. Thanks for the support. One Redditor suggested, and pulled his comment, that he thinks the nursing home won't continue sending. Well, it's been 4 months and they're still sending a negative $5 bill. Another suggested it could cost between $15 and $40 a month for them to send me this bill. Optimistically then, they will have screwed themselves over as soon as the end of this calendar year. That ending is just absolutely hilarious. Nursing homes can actually be really awful to people, and this one sounds like one of them that is. So I'm hoping maybe one day the cost of these letters adds up to be more than what OP paid to clear all the bills away. In that case, it would probably turn into more of a pro-revenge story, but still, very good. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and I'll see you in the next video.